Loaded Dolphins show on tap for all of you today. I am Nick Roloff. This is Dolphins Today. We're going to start by talking about James Bradberry and if the Miami Dolphins should trade for the Philadelphia Eagles cornerback. We'll also touch on another defensive back, Storm Duck, the UDFA out of Louisville. Before we dive into those topics on today's show, I want you to make sure you are following us on Instagram. We just launched this new IG just a couple weeks ago. At Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We currently have 188 followers, and the goal is to get to 200 off of today's video. We will be putting out a short/reel later today, so if you want to be in the know on everything Miami Dolphins and you want more content in between each video, go give us a follow at Dolphins Today IG. All right, let's talk about it in the Dolphins Rumors Roundup here. And if you remember, we introduced this segment to the show last week where we have rumors, I give them a scale 1 to 4, and then we talk about them. Well, the first one is trade for James Bradberry. I'm giving it 1 fin, which means it's a small shred of truth, which means it's very unlikely that this is ever going to happen. But how did this come about? Well, Bleacher Report actually put out an article labeling the biggest team need in a move for the Dolphins with the remaining cap space. And they gave the top 3 team needs for Miami at safety, interior offensive line, and cornerback. And I agree with 2 out of the 3, right? We've talked about safety. We've talked about interior offensive line. I'd probably say that the third biggest need for Miami is still defensive line on the interior after losing Christian Wilkins. But I do understand the need for corner if you did move Nick Needham from CB to safety. So this is where the trade for James Bradberry rumor comes into play. And, well, let's explore it on today's show. I think it's a good thing to kick off with what they had to say on the matter before I give you my full opinion and we look at what Bradberry has done for the Eagles over the past 2 seasons. So here is what BR said. They said Bradberry could be an intriguing option for Miami. The Eagles could save money by trading him after June 1st. He had a disappointing 2023 season, but was instrumental to the Eagles' success in 2022. His salary is only $1.2 million for this upcoming year. He would give the Dolphins a third option on the outside and allow flexibility to move Jalen Ramsey into the slot if the situation calls for it. And they do give a compelling argument about, well, he's only costing you $1.2 million this upcoming year. He fits the timeline for the Dolphins to try to win now. The one issue with that, he's not very good. And they kind of alluded to it in the article that he had a very down year in 23 in comparison to 22. I mean, he was terrific for Philadelphia, and he was very instrumental, to use their words, in the Eagles making the Super Bowl. And obviously, you had the holding call against Juju Smith-Schuster, if you can remember that little controversial call against the Kansas City Chiefs. But you can just see the numbers on screen. The left is in 2022, his first year with the Philadelphia Eagles after jumping ship from the New York Giants. And then this past year, every PFF grade goes down. Every PBU and INT goes down. The completion percentage goes up, not good. And even worse, he allowed 9 touchdowns last season, according to Pro Football Focus. Listen, they're not the gospel, but I'm just reading you the stats, and that is very, very bad. 9 touchdowns, and I'll also say this too. I don't believe that the Dolphins GM, let alone what I think, I don't think Chris Grier would make this trade, because why would you send an asset, although it would likely just be a probably 6th or 7th round pick, because honestly, I've been looking at some of the stuff Chase Sr. and Jake Chipper have said at Eagles now here at Chat Sports, and they said that wouldn't be that surprising if he got cut after they added Cooper DeJean, and who was the other corner? Quinion Mitchell, that's right, the rookie from Toledo. I knew they added a couple corners, so wouldn't surprise me if Bradberry is on the market, but he could be cut, so I don't think Chris Grier would make this trade, because if they truly did have an eye for Bradberry, maybe they just wait for a post-June 1st cut. But you guys let me know if you believe what I'm telling you about Chris Grier. Should the Dolphins trade for James Bradberry? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Listen, he's a very experienced corner who's had a lot of success in this league. I just think his best days are behind him, and I don't think he fits with Miami right now. Let's talk about Storm Duck making the roster, the UDFA out of Louisville, former North Carolina Tar Heel as well. I'm giving this 3 Dolphins, which means it's likely, folks. And I do think Storm Duck has a real good chance to make this roster. And the reason why we have sparked this conversation regarding Storm, which, by the way, unbelievable name. We've talked about that before, but I don't think you could have a cooler name, is because Pro Football Focus actually listed him as the most likely UDFA to make the Dolphins 53-man roster. PFF said Storm Duck would be a franchise cornerstone if names were star power in the NFL. But he could still stick onto the Dolphins roster as a rotational cornerback. The former Cardinal earned a 68.5 grade in 2023. And I'm not proud to admit this, but I've watched more Storm Duck football than I think anyone on the planet. Why, you ask? Well, it is weird to admit, but I am a North Carolina Tar Heels football fan. I will openly admit that. I don't know why. I started becoming a fan back in the mid-2010s. But so I watched him with North Carolina before he transferred to Louisville. He has excellent ball skills, and he has a knack for finding his way into making takeaways and taking the ball away from the opposing offense and just making a momentum play. Now, I will say the Tar Heels defense was never really good when Storm Duck was there, but he could make some plays. And I actually think he flashes the ability to even move to safety if it ever called upon it. We're going to talk more about Storm Duck in a second, but I do want to let you know that the full Miami Dolphins schedule is going to be released on Wednesday. If you're watching this on Monday, that's 2 days from now. If you're watching this on Tuesday, well, that's tomorrow. We're going to have the full 17-game schedule for the Dolphins, bye weeks, primetime games on Wednesday evening. So make sure you subscribe and come back on Wednesday afternoon. All right, Storm Duck was a part of that Louisville defense a year ago who was actually very, very good. He didn't see the field as much as you would think. He was more of a rotational corner, but I also did want to point out, remember, we talked about this in the UDFA video when he initially signed. The Dolphins offered him $150K. Like, there was multiple teams that wanted to get Duck into their locker room, so it was good on Miami to end up getting him. But his grades were nothing special, only one touchdown allowed. I'd say just a pretty average cornerback season for the Cardinals a year ago, but I'll be intrigued to see what he can do in training camp. And I do actually think that Storm Duck is going to make the 53-man roster. There's a lot of factors why I believe this, but his ability to take the ball away, his ability to have a knack to be in the right spot at the right times, that will show in the preseason, and that will show in August for the Dolphins training camp. I also think the potential switch from Nick Needham to corner to safety is going to allow the Dolphins to either add another cornerback, maybe that is in free agency or on the trade market. But Duck, the UDFA out of Louisville, has a real chance to make this Dolphins roster, and I would put money that he does. And you mentioned the cornerback room. You obviously have Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, and Kader Kohou as your top three guys. But Nick Needham, I think, is that fourth corner for you, right? And we just talked about it a second ago. There's a lot of buzz about him moving to safety in this new Anthony Weaver-led defense. So if he does that, well, now your fourth and fifth corners are second-year man Cam Smith out of South Carolina, and then Neal, who came over from Buffalo in the offseason. You're telling me that Storm Duck could make this team as that fifth or sixth guy? Bonner's actually going to have a good chance. Obviously, UDFA, Isaiah Johnson out of Syracuse is also there as well. But Duck will have the opportunities to make this roster. It's just all up to see if he can perform in August and in the 3 preseason games for the Dolphins. You guys give me your opinion, though. Look into the future. When it's roster cut-down day in late August, what would you guys think? Will Duck's name be on the 53-man roster? If you believe it will be, type M for make. If you think he's cut, unfortunately, type those C's. Before we round out today's show, I do want to make sure you were hooked up because, well, we have a sale on for you right now. 2 Dolphins tees, one in the aqua, one in the orange. $15 off this Dolphins t-shirt combo at chatsports.com/Dolphins combo. Also going to be in the description and comments of today's video. All right, final thing we want to talk about on today is Patrick Paul, the second-round offensive tackle out of Houston. Is he going to be a menace for Miami? Yeah, that's 4 fins, baby. It's happening for Miami. This dude's unbelievable, and I would be scared to face him. You look at some of the photos emerging from rookie minicamp, and I'm terrified of this guy. Look at this guy. Look at him right now. Look at the mask. Looks like Darth Vader out there or something. It's absolutely wild. If you line up across from him and you see a guy wearing that mask, what is going to be your first thought? I would be scared shitless. That's just me. Maybe I'm just soft. But then you look at the entire Dolphins rookie class, the 7 guys that they drafted in late April, and look at the size of Patrick Paul. I know, I get it. There's wide receivers, there's corners, there's a running back, and a couple edges. But let's not get it twisted, folks. Chop Robinson is a big dude. He's like 6'4". So the fact that Patrick Paul just looks like a skyscraper in comparison to these other rookies is just unbelievable. And the future for him, to me, is very, very bright. But all jokes aside, I did want to touch on Patrick Paul before we did head out of here, because he has the talent, the frame, the athleticism to be an elite left tackle in the National Football League and for the Miami Dolphins. And the fact that he is going to be able to learn under Teron Armstead, who has been one of the best left tackles over the past decade for the Saints and for the Dolphins, is just terrific stuff. His development is going to be hinged on learning under Armstead, and hopefully Teron can stay healthy for the most of this upcoming season, because I would like to see Paul sit for most of the year and learn behind him. Now, do I think he's going to be capable of playing if one of Austin Jackson or Armstead goes down and you have to slide in Paul because he's your swing tackle? Yeah, I do feel confident with the rookie, but I would like to see him learn under Armstead one more year before being the starting left tackle of the future starting next season. Very excited about Patrick Paul. I loved the pick at the time, and I think he's going to work out great in the 305. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate everyone for tuning in and staying in throughout the entire video. If you haven't already, like I mentioned off the top, follow us at Instagram, Dolphins Today IG is the handle. More content over there on a daily basis, so join the fun and get covered on the Dolphins. I'll see you on the next video. Go Fins.